Welcome to the FU Money Podcast. We have emptied these drinks.
Yes, we did.
And you're about to listen to one crazy podcast. This is probably one of the most fundamental, second most fundamental podcast.
And more importantly, one of the most important. It's because it's all about debt.
All about debt. We get into some crazy personal stories. Right, we got stories from Dane.
Stories from you, actually.
Yeah, I'm the bad guy in one of the stories.
You are.
And this is going to be hit home for most people, right?
Oh, yeah. We all of us interact with debt on a daily basis in some way or another. This episode really gets into the good, the bad, and, of course,
your mom's mindset. Enjoy the episode.
Yeah.
FU Dane.
FU Hugh. And welcome back to the FU Money Podcast. In this series, we basically go from I don't know shit to I want some of that FU money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a lot of people want to jump to the fancy stuff.
Yeah.
Which is like steak and asparagus and shiitake mushrooms, which is delicious.
Yeah.
Right? You just ask Mark Shepard, go YouTube it. But just YouTube Mark Shepard, steak, shiitake mushrooms. Anyways, we're going to start with mashed potatoes that are mushed up.
Pureed.
Yeah, pureed.
Even a baby can eat them.
We want to get you from, I genuinely don't know anything, right? Nothing against it, but I live in a trailer somewhere in the country. I'm working a blue-collar job. How the hell did you basically go from effectively that, paycheck to paycheck, right, to now you own 6,000? We're going to take the whole listeners' ears. That's the series. What episode are we doing today?
Oh, this is a good one. Today's episode is all about debt, and it's the good, the bad, and we all know your mom's ugly. We're going to talk about that.
Just think about it. It's true. Good debt, bad debt. You hear it thrown around. What the hell does that even mean?
Yeah. Well, Hugh, I guess I just want to start with a simple question. Isn't all debt bad debt?
No, and Dave Ramsey's the devil.
Oh, man.
I don't like him more than I don't like Grant Cardone. So the two sides of the spectrum, for those of you who don't know, there's like Dave Ramsey, who's super duper anti-debt. And there's Grant Cardone, who's like, leverage everything, 10x everything, everything, blah, 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 blah. You're not give me $100,000. Trust me, I'm Uncle Grant. So like, there's like the super debt side.
Yeah.
And then there's the no debt side.
Right.
Dave Ramsey is talking to 90% of the world, and his advice is correct for 90% of the United States.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're listening to our podcast called FU Money, that's probably not fucking you.
Yeah.
Because there's an FU in there.
Yeah.
And you want your finances under control.
Yeah. You want to be the Wolf of Wall Street, just throwing dollar bills at the IRS.
Yeah. What? At the IRS?
I'm just kidding.
What?
You never saw that part? It's a terrible movie. I don't recommend it.
I'm going to watch that movie right after this.
Yeah, no, man.
Anyways, good debt versus bad debt. Yeah. So Dave Ramsey preaches that debt is evil. Get rid of all of it. I'm Dave Ramsey. Yeah. Don't laugh at me for being 28 years old and being completely incompetent and making super bad choices, which he freely admits. Or you could just be like, I'm just not going to get into that kind of debt.
Yeah.
So I disagree. Debt's a personal choice. I'm going to say that most debt is bad debt. Not all debt is bad debt. Okay. And that's what we're here to discuss today. I'm $6 million in debt. No, I'm $4.5 million in debt. How much debt are you in?
Maybe $1 million.
He's $1 million in debt. I'm $4.5 million in debt. And you know what? That's the bank's problem. That's not our problem. We're drinking some beers right now. You owe the bank $1, that's your problem. You owe the bank $4.5 million. That's the bank's
their problem. I agree. Well, and I do want to dig a little deeper. You know, in all seriousness, if you're saying that not all debt is bad debt, what do you define as good debt then? Because debt just sounds negative. And it is negative. Really.
It's even the word, I'm in debt.
Yeah, I hate it.
I'm proud to be in debt.
But you're a positive guy.
Yeah. I'm reasonably off.
Yeah. So give me an example of what you believe good debt would be so that we can relate this to real life examples.
Okay. So right up front, very beginning of the podcast, we're going to lay it out. That we're not going to reveal it to the end of the podcast. So you keep listening to the, I'm just totally kidding.
Nice.
Basically, good debt is debt that will probably make you money.
Okay.
And bad debt is debt that will most certainly not make you money.
Okay.
Or almost certainly not make you money.
All right. Well, I mean, that's a pretty straightforward definition. So you're saying, according to Hugh Carnahan,
and many people,
any debt that you are willing to take on calculated risk, that as long as it has the potential of making you money, it's good debt.
Yes. There's still risk involved, but if the debt, if you take out debt to go buy a boat, that may or may not be good debt.
How do you mean?
Now, there's a 99% chance of bad debt. But I know one guy with a super sweet lifted black platinum F-150 who took out debt to buy some boats. And then he made $100,000 that summer renting those boats out. He took debt out to buy boats. So he didn't have his money. He borrowed
Pretty
it.
smart guy.
And they made $100,000. That's good debt. Most people who take debt out to go buy a boat have a depreciating asset sitting in their garage that their wife hates them for.
Yeah.
That they may or may not have told their wife about, or husband, right? There's some bad girls out there. I don't know. It's Alabama. I'm sure it's full of them.
That's why you got to skip the boat and go for a jet ski, because no matter how much debt you're in, I've never seen someone on a jet ski with a frown. Have you?
Dude, jet skis are crazy.
Have you ever seen someone? They're like, what? So, in my opinion,
the motorcycle of the ocean.
The motorcycle of the ocean. But to your point, okay, so this gentleman that we're talking about, we know him, exclusively. He did do something really smart. He went out and leveraged debt, bought boats, which is an entertainment thing, and then rented it out to super rich people on the lake.
I don't know about rich people on the lake.
Oh, they were rich.
Could also have been people putting money on credit cards, which we're about to get into.
Yeah.
Where they just said, you know what, sweetheart, let's take the kids out. We're going to go on the lake because it's 4th of July.
But maybe they were happy because they were on a boat and they went in, they spent on their credit card to go on that boat.
And they can be happy. I don't know, but they probably shouldn't have gotten into debt to be happy, right? Just keep it up.
Well, they're happy because they're not maintaining that boat. To your defense.
So let's go to the United States. We'll start with the West. People in the West usually are pretty okay with that. EU, Germans are a little bit worse, right? They're a little bit more anti-debt. Then you zoom into the US. US is like, everyone's in debt. It's totally normal. Credit card debt, student loan debt. It's totally normal. Oh, it's just a thing.
Well, and it's normal to live well below 5 to 10% of your means.
Yeah.
Meaning you entire check is spent and you're still putting 10 or more % on your credit cards to get by.
That is not good debt. And we're going to go into that. And we're going to start with the first one. And I'm going to give caveats to this because it's not always the case. But if you're listening to this, it's probably not, I'm not allowed talking to you when I say this, but you can use credit cards for really good things. But there's an extremely high likelihood, 99% chance that credit card debt is bad debt. How so? Let's get into that right now.
I mean, it's all designed by billion-dollar companies to take your money and keep you in debt. And most people will then play the debt game where you're playing your minimums. You're not paying the balance off every single month. You're not doing it responsibly and then leveraging their money or their points to your advantage. They are leveraging you for every dime that you will ever make for the next 25 years. Have you ever seen the debt pay down schedule if you pay your minimum on like a $15,000 credit card?
Yeah.
It's like 25 years.
And it doesn't even matter the minimums are basically set up to make sure that you always,
and that's the debt game.
If you take debt out for something you want, it's probably bad debt.
Yeah.
If you want it and that thing that you want won't make you money, probably bad debt. Here's a very small caveat. This is 25% of the population that can responsibly handle this. I use it, and we're going to get into this later. I use my credit card on for everything, but I pay it off in full every month. If I cannot do that, I do not buy the thing. If I want, if you're, I think Nicole and I went out and we bought athletic clothes. I went out and bought a rice. I'll pull out my credit card and buy the thing.
Sure.
But I'll pay it off in full every month. That's the only way that I find that okay, which we'll get into in the credit card episode. But for the most part, people are just getting into debt to say, the minimum's only $50 a month.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And this happens on things like you see furniture or even on Amazon now. It's like, you can pay later. You can just pay the payments for 6 months with no interest. And it's easy to select yes and get caught in that trap too. And this also comes down to the fact that oftentimes when you're single, it's a little bit easier to have full control over your finances. It's not so easy when you're married or have a partner or, other people that are part of that equation. That's where I got hung up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I do really like how you define good debt is things that you can hopefully leverage or use to make you money. And we're not talking about speculation, so gambling doesn't count. Let's be very clear. You could make a lot of money gambling. I know if I put it on black, I got a 50% chance of winning double what I put down. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about calculated risk. And I want to also, let's talk about vehicles, because everyone's like, well, I want a car.
I want a car.
Yeah. So would you classify that as good or bad debt?
I'm going to say that so we started with credit cards. Let's say there's a 99% chance that's bad debt.
Yeah.
Vehicles, if it's a new vehicle, I'm going to say there's a 98% chance that's bad debt. If it's a used vehicle, I'm going to say that there is a 97% chance that's bad debt.
Okay. What's the 2 or 3%?
2 or 3% chance. It's actually the same guy as the boat guy.
Mm-hmm.
He took out debt to buy a Corvette, buy a Tesla. Mm-hmm. These are like super exotic cars. He put them on a Turo, and he was renting them out, and he was making a ship.
Yeah. But so you're talking about leverage debt as a business opportunity. So that's calculated risk.
That is the only way I see buying a vehicle.
Okay.
One of the only ways I see buying a vehicle with that as a good idea.
So mostly,
which is extremely rare and only rare for very few people.
So basically, the car you want to buy, you really need to afford it. You need to be able to justify, hey, I want this car because I like it and I can pay for it.
I'll tell a very, very smart guy once told me, oh shit, this guy's totally a mentor, I guess. It's the same guy with the boat and the same guy with the Turo I just talked about.
Yeah, he's pretty smart. We got to have him on.
We'll have him on if he wants to be on.
Yeah. He's very elusive. But.
Anyways, Sue Lohan. Good lift the truck. Long story short, he said one thing that would just change my life to a small degree, but it changed it nonetheless. He said, cars will never make you money, so you got to do what makes you happy. I totally believe that. If you get a car for debt, it's probably not going to make you money. So make sure you can afford to buy the car in cash.
Yeah.
And accept that it's okay.
Yeah. And real talk, you guys, this one's hard. I love nice cars. I've driven really nice cars. The last, I think, sports car I bought was a 335 M Sport, had all the bells and whistles. I've had trucks, I've had all kinds of stuff. I don't drive those cars anymore. As I learned to think like an investor, which this podcast is designed to do, I realized how not helpful that was and how much money that asset was not an asset. It was definitely a liability.
We're going to get into a full episode about what is an asset, what's the liability.
Absolutely. So I drive a car that I paid for cash now. It's a 2000, midlife crisis gold Lexus that I got from this sweet Asian woman.
Oh, what, 10, 15 years old?
Yeah. And it runs so good. It's one of my favorite cars I've ever driven, and I owe nothing on it. And everyone at first laughed, and then they get in it and they all want to buy it because it's.
I'm going to update my previous. Remember earlier I said new car, the 98% chance it's bad debt, 97% chance if it's a used car, it's bad debt. I'm going to say if you buy a Toyota, there's a 93% chance that it's bad debt.
So I checked both of those boxes. It was a Lexus and it was.
But you bought it in cash. And it's used.
But we lived in Japan. Okay.
That's fantastic.
And real talk, in Japan, it's not the image game. So everyone drives what they can afford, and they wait and they save and they save, and then they buy something new and then they drive it until they're ready to replace it. We got into that habit. So when I came to the States, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to get a pimp ride. I was like, I got used to driving something that I bought cash money, and I really enjoyed that feeling. Experience it once, you'll do it again. It's one of the best things I ever did.
All right. Long story short, vehicles, probably bad debt.
Probably.
Try to buy it in cash if you can.
Okay.
This is coming from somebody who has 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 military trucks, and a pickup.
I was going to say.
And a Tesla.
Yeah. It's a lot.
And that's that's me.
Yeah.
I have zero debt against any of those, and they're appreciating in value. Well, 2 of them are depreciating. The truck and the Tesla are depreciating.
Yeah.
The 4 military trucks are appreciating, but I made the choice. It's not going to make me money, so I'm okay with hitting it. But I bought them in cash, which we'll get into in the future. Where did the quote? It's not really in cash, but for this video, it will be in cash.
And really, what's the goal of this? That you learn to think like an investor, so one day you can just go buy the car you want in cash. So the FU money part is the FU, I drive what I want. But it's because you didn't leverage debt to get it. You've made smart choices that allowed you to take the money that you made and buy it without leasing it, without then taking a loan out on it.
Here's a fantastic example I'll give you real quick. If you want the thing, don't buy it with debt. Invest your way to get something that cash flows enough to buy the thing.
Right.
That's it.
No, that's good. So let's switch gears, and I want to ask you school debt.
Student loan debt. United States, totally normal.
But it's so important. We all need degrees. You need to be doctorate. Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Freaking terrible. Okay. Here's my rating, my opinion. And I'm right. Probably. I think there's a 75% chance that you going to college and getting debt is a terrible idea.
I can attest to that.
Okay. You went to college
I sure did.
and you got how much debt when you left?
Oh, like 60 or something, maybe more
60
now.
grand. Okay. How long were you in college?
4 years.
4 years.
Mhm.
How much did you make after 4 years?
From that degree, zero.
She made zero from that degree.
Yeah. The degree wasn't worth the money that it was printed, the paper that it was printed on.
So I'm going to pause right now. I'll probably bring it up multiple more times. If you go to college and you get a freaking degree, before you get into any debt, which is probably going to happen, ask yourself, will the job I get after college pay for my degree?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, you shouldn't be in college. Or change your degree. Student loans was never designed for your humanities or history degree or English lit or any other
Or
crap.
psychology.
It was STEM stuff. It was science, and technology degrees.
Doctorates.
And then I think it was under Clinton. It expanded to Clinton.
It was like that for everybody.
Monica Lewinsky Clinton
Oh, yeah.
was like, oh, yeah, we'll open up.
He did not have sexual relations with that woman.
He did
I
not.
saw a clip. He said so.
Yeah, me too. I remember that.
Yeah.
93.
I did not sexual relations with that woman.
Nor did she like that there wasn't money to be lent out. Now, we're going to get roasted in the comments, and I insist because we're wrong. Let us know.
Yeah.
And also, it helps the algorithms, wherever they may be.
Well, and I do. Go ahead.
Basically, it's not economical. We were sold this as millennials and older Gen Zs. We were sold this idea that, go to college and you'll get a good job. Well, guess what? Everyone has a freaking college degree now.
Yeah.
80% or more of my graduating class. I mean, one of the smartest guys I knew in college works as a used car salesman in Houston, Texas.
And he's killing it.
I don't know that he's killing it.
No.
I haven't talked to him in a long
I was
time,
just guessing.
but he could have just done that out of high school.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you come out of high school, you can just immediately start. Let's say you start lower, right? Let's say it's 50. You left 4 years to delay yourself. Let's say you get 30 grand starting some normal job somewhere. 30 grand, 30 grand, 30 grand, 30 grand. That's $120,000.
Mhm.
So the same two high schoolers that graduate end up, one $120,000 ahead with zero debt. The other one's $120,000 behind. It's in 60 grand or 80 grand of debt.
It's easy to do.
And the job they get, 40 grand or 50 grand.
And I will say this. So, folks, I did it right. When I went to college, I was all in. I graduated top of my class, cum laude. And I was like, this is going to take me to the next level.
Them words I can't even say.
I couldn't either at the time. Now I moved to Missouri. I definitely can't say it. But at the end of the day, when I graduated, all hopeful, bright-eyed, and bushy-tailed, there was no job prospects available for me unless I completed a master's. And then within the education game, they wanted a doctorate on top of that. So and along that path, you're very limited in your earning potential, and you're taking more loans as you go. So some people have the right, their heart's in the right place. They're putting in the hard work. They're graduating at the top of their class. They're doing everything they can. And then they come out of college and realize there's not a whole lot there for them. And then they're like, well, your degree doesn't really match this job. And I'm in real estate now, which is nothing.
Which is actually making you money, which you don't need a degree to get into.
But it wasn't even remotely involved with what I studied, which is the same story.
If you're young and you're listening to this and you're like, oh, well, you're right. Your heart's in the right place. I want to get a good education. But your brain wasn't. You never turned your freaking brain on.
Yeah, because if you took math, you would have added up like Hugh did. Well, I mean, he would add it up like you did and said, in 4 years, I'll make this much and not be behind.
I lucked out. I was in IT. I did get an IT job. And I was like, cool. It actually penciled out. So remember, I said 75% chance that it's going to be bad debt, 25% chance it's good debt.
Yeah.
If your job or you want to do and you're truly passionate about it is going to be, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a dentist.
Yeah.
Maybe attorney. Attorney's even fall on the list. I want to be IT. I want to be in a STEM field. Probably that is the 25% that it makes sense.
But you don't have to kick down the front door and say, I'm here. I'm going to loan every dime I can get my hands on. The people that did it right, and my wife is one of them, she graduated with zero debt from a private college in the nursing program. Now think about that. That means her school and degree together were $412,000. And what she did, and she was this sweet Asian girl from Utah. She, it's kind of funny if you ever hear her story. She decided she saw someone on a stage with a giant check who joined the ROTC program. She's like, I want one of those. and
She
it
wanted a big check.
and it paid for the whole thing. And so they recruited her and they threw her into the Navy, sweet Kim, and she all of a sudden had to get tough to get through all of the steps, and she never quit, and everything was paid for. And she now has no debt for her education. That is a good example of how to do something, but it put her into two things: leadership, because the military was involved and she went the opposite route.
Right.
And the second thing is that it also threw her into nursing at a high level.
You said that she got a degree. She didn't get into debt.
She got an education.
This is, did you get into debt
Yeah.
for education?
But there's ways around it and still get an education.
She got into debt. She had to trade 4 years of her time for the service.
Absolutely. There's the time commitment, but there is ways.
555-555. Uncle Sam wants you.
Yeah.
And
Right. But there are programs, to my point.
Right.
If education is important to you, there are many paths to get an education and not pay anything or very little.
right. So student debt, 75% chance that it's garbage, 25% chance that I'm going to be probably, I was probably okay getting into some debt. But we lucked out. All right. So if you're going to specialize in the trades, great.
Sure.
Trades are another one.
Trades are great.
We'll just touch on it.
Yeah.
But we paid our electrician in
Yeah.
college
Yeah.
$146,000 last year.
Absolutely. Trades are where their money is right now. And they're
That's a lot.
inexpensive to go to those programs, and it gets you out in the field working quicker than a 4-year college degree.
So again, just the short answer for student debt: do the math before you get into debt.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this, actually, you're not going to be listening to this and have the debt and be upset. You're going to do the math and be like, "Oh, I shouldn't be in all this debt. I'm screwed."
Yeah.
You're just do the math before you get into it. And if you're too late, that's fine.
Yeah.
Say, I understand. I actively choose this debt, and we'll figure it out later, which will be the rest of the series. All right. Next point:
Mortgages.
mortgages.
Ooh, it's a big chunk of debt.
I'm going to say there's a 50% chance that it is a bad debt, and a 50% chance it's good debt.
Okay. Well, how would you define the two?
Basically,
You got to have a house.
if you're living above your means
Okay.
and you're keeping up with the Joneses, actually, if you're keeping up with the Joneses and you're not living above your means, do it. I don't care.
Then you are the joint.
You are all the Joneses, very much. But if you basically overextend yourself, you buy too much house than you need,
Yeah.
too more house than you can afford,
Yeah.
then I think that's bad debt. If you're below that, then you're okay. To include, if you're making money from the house,
Okay.
I also think that's good. I think that's good debt. So this is the first time I've said I think it's good debt.
Well, and I want to touch on that and talk about how mortgages can be used as really good debt. So there's a lot of reasons that owning a house is better than not owning a house.
I'm going to back this up. I'm going to go back to Grant Cardone
Okay.
versus
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey says, yeah, it's fine. I give you the green light to get into the only that you care about, which was mortgages, green light.
And
But if you are Grant Cardone, he's like, oh, houses are bad. Single family homes are bad. I
Yeah.
disagree. I think single family homes are good. And I think that they can be a very good investment vehicle for you.
yeah, if you're not buying or investing in a house that is beyond your means in a neighborhood that you can't cash flow, and you are in one of the biggest houses in the neighborhood, is also a dangerous game that you're playing. There are things that you
Exactly.
can set yourself up correctly to do.
Just make sure that you can very, very comfortably keep your monthly payment, whatever it may be. If you're a 10 millionaire
Yeah.
or you make 30 grand a year, or you make 16 grand a year, make sure your mortgage, whatever the debt service is 33% or lower than whatever you bring in.
But Hugh, I'm so scared because the rates went up, and I shouldn't buy a house when it's 8 or 9%.
I love rates. You know, one of the best things to do is buy a house right now.
Absolutely.
We'll get into that into a different debt, a good debt episode,
Yeah.
a strategic debt episode.
Yeah.
But I'll just say real quickly, debt is a three-legged stool. You have the interest rate, you have the cost, and then you have the amount of time to pay it off. You can do some crazy things with those three levers. Basically, money is not real, it's all pretend. And if
Yeah.
you know how to play the game, then you can create money out of thin air and do that very, very quickly. Right. So if you're like, oh my God, what do I tell you? Sounds like heresy. Super easy. Bankers do it every day.
Yeah. And the one point I want to make, despite what the rate is, 3%, 8%, if you can make the payment comfortably where you're at, the rate does not matter. You actually told me that because I was like, oh, I'm getting worried about all these high end. And you're like, if the debt makes sense, you're not over leveraged and you can comfortably make the payment. It doesn't matter what the interest rate
Yes,
is.
I'm going to give the viewers, the listeners, a caveat to that. So, yes, but you and I have a very long-term look on owning houses. We think our houses are assets. And so, yes, for you, we'll plan on keeping your house for a long time, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to bring us back to a guy. He walks past us once a day, maybe twice a day in our current office right now. We're not going to use his real name. We call him Bob.
I like
Mustache. Bob, cool guy.
Mhm.
Bob, probably in the 90s. And I don't know him at all. I know he's been working for this company for like 20 years, 30 years.
3 decades.
Bob probably bought his house in the late 90s, early thousands for 90 to 100 grand.
Sweet deal.
Doesn't matter what interest rates are back then.
Yeah.
But actually, in the 90s, I think they were like 7 or 8%. Pretty high. Pretty damn high. We're bitching about 5%, 6%. Well, his house is probably worth 350 grand a day. So Bob's doing all right.
Yeah, sure.
Now, does Bob have the training, education, and resources to do something with that 350 grand? Probably not. And should he? For 90% of people, the answer is no. But 90% of people aren't listening to our podcast. 10% of people are. So we're going to teach you later how to play games. And so if you have a long-term outlook on things, which I think you should.
Yeah.
Houses can be a very good asset.
Right.
They can also hurt you too.
And again, the premise of FU Money is how to use your personal residence and any other mortgages in which you own, either whether you're carrying them as paper or whether these are rental income that adds to your overall portfolio. These are tools that you'll be able to use and leverage the bank's money to make more money. So there's things like lines of credit, equity. There's all kinds of stuff. You can sell it straight out. There's a million games that you can play if you have an investor mindset.
So long and short of it, good debt, bad debt. What's the difference?
Good debt is debt that you can take out and make more money with than the debt cost you.
Credit cards, probably.
I would say for 99% of people, bad debt, in my opinion.
For vehicle loans, probably.
Bad debt.
For student loans.
Mostly bad debt.
And for mortgages.
Good debt.
You say good debt because you're an investor mindset. 50-50.
Yeah, 50-50.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe other people differ.
Right.
I think mortgages are okay. If you can handle the debt and it's 33% below, I think it's good debt.
Okay. And quick at the very end, we talked a lot about ugly
Your
people.
mom?
Yeah.
Ugly.
Yeah. Lots of ugly moms out there. Give me an example.
There's something that we haven't touched on, and it's basically, colloquially, they're going to be called loan sharks.
Yeah.
But there's payday loans, stuff like that.
Oh, man.
They're designed to suck the money. They're like credit cards and steroids. Oh, by the way, we never even touched on it. Credit cards are usually bad because it can carry a balance of like 18 to 25 to 30%.
It's a lot.
Payday loans are
Up to 50%.
actually, I think they're less, but they're just structured very well. Every jurisdiction, every state will be different. So we're not going to get into the specifics.
Yeah.
But they're predatory.
Absolutely.
We had a coworker, and they didn't know any better, and they had some petty loans for like 4 or 5 years.
Yes, and it was a small balance of only $500 originally.
Yeah, it was like $500 to $900.
Yeah.
And they were never able to pay that off. I think we did the math one day with their permission, and they paid like $8,000 to $10,000 on that $500 balance.
Yeah. You're better off selling everything in that you're capable of selling without being homeless than getting a payday loan.
Yeah. So that's the only one. Be sure that. Now, hard money lenders is another one.
That's a naughty word too. A lot of people,
What's a hard money lender?
hard money lender, a lot of times used to get tied up with loan shark. It's people who, and I don't mean tied up, I mean confused with. So people would often associate a hard money lender with someone who's just like putting unbelievable terms on short-term cash that really they gain from lending out more than anybody else. But in reality, private money, hard money can be incredibly beneficial. But I would say do your homework. Really, if you ever go down that path, you need to, I would say, look up reviews, know what you're getting into, because it can be a credible tool, but it can also be something that puts you underwater almost faster than anything.
We're going to go into a few examples right here at the very end. These are the nuggets at the end.
Yeah.
And so I want to, just kind of hit them for you guys. So great example. We're going to start with, all the things that are bad debt and ugly debt. I'm going to give you an ugly dad example here, and it's going to hit home. It's going to be personal for me, but good. Maybe I was the bad guy. Disney villain. Okay.
You have the mustache of a Disney.
I have the mustache of a Disney villain. So credit cards. Tell me about a farmer we know.
It's better.
Credit cards generally are bad debt. Here's a specific example of credit cards being used as good debts.
If you're speaking of the gentleman, I think that you are. Everything that he was able or needed for his farm, he was able to put on a credit card in which the government programs would pay him directly in cash for, and he didn't owe anything on him. Is that who you're talking about?
It's close, yes. Okay. So look up Mark Shepard likes
different one.
No, but you're on the right track though. Yeah. So it was Mark Shepard. So Mark Shepard says, basically because he pays no inputs due to permaculture. Google that word later, and you'll lose 2 months of your life. But he buys cattle on credit cards.
Right.
They're credit cards, and they have a % balance. He buys them in March when the prices are high, and he sells them when the prices are low, which is the bad way to do things. But the cow has put 500, 800 pounds on whatever cattle put on. So he buys it with a credit card. If he just would have bought it in cash, he would have made like a 200 to 600% return on investment, right? He bought it for $500 and whatever. When he buys it on credit cards, he made like a 2,400% return because he only paid $231 for interest on the card.
Right.
Now, because he carried the balance through the year.
Yeah.
So he bought it. Yeah. Our cows are like, it'll be different by the time you listen to this, but roughly, let's say it's $250 to $500 for a cow, depending on the breed and the part of the country you're in. At the end, he sold that sucker for $18 to $2,800.
Yeah, that's a good way to go.
The debt he only carried was let's say I maxed $500 a cow.
Yeah, right.
He carried that debt for 10 months, and he doesn't overwinter, and he doesn't have cows. It's his thing. But he didn't make the calculated risk. Okay, what was the risk he made?
I mean, that the cow didn't give him the return when he sold it on the back end.
Okay, so let's say he bought it for $500. The risk he took was maybe the cow gives him $500.
Yeah.
It's extremely unlikely that over the course of adding 500 pounds, it's not going to not do that.
Sure.
What's the other risk?
I mean, he didn't really have a whole lot of risk in that game because his interest rate was fixed for that amount of time.
Yeah. The other risk is the cow didn't die.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, death, of course.
Yeah.
That's always a risk.
Okay. Yeah. So, but if he averages that risk over 30 cattle, there he goes.
Yeah.
So that is a responsible use of a credit card. Very similar. We're going to get into it way later. If you are flipping a house, let's say it's a crack house, then you need 30 grand. You have a 0% interest credit card, and it's going to take you 6 months to flip the house, but your credit card's good for a year, and you run up the credit card balance to 30 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And then you flip the house.
Absolutely.
That is a strategically good use of a credit card debt. So not all credit card debt is bad.
I know lots of people who've done
that. It's just good debt versus bad debt. Is it going to make you money, or is it something you want? If it's something you want, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. Well, give me an example of ugly debt then. You said that was close to home.
Okay. Ugly debt. So first off, we'll skip the vehicle real quick.
Yeah.
Vehicle, we already gave you the one early on about boats and Venturas for the cars. Student debt. If you're going to be a doctor or a dentist or some shit, good on you. If you're not going to be that,
probably wasting
go work on the border or something.
Yeah. Go be in the trades for reals. There's money to be
Go be in the trades, and we'll be out of you.
Yes. You'll be taking all of our money.
Seriously. Okay. Ugly debt. Hard money lending. There's really good ways. We're going to do this in the investing. We're going to have whole episodes. One of our friends and former business partners wrote a book on lending.
Yes, she did.
And I know 80% of what I know from her book. Super cool. So they got the debt. Debt's good. You can lend on it. Now, let's talk predatory debts, which you could put me in the category of.
Being a predator.
Being a predator. To catch a predator. That guy with the haircut.
Yeah.
And the cops.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we have predatory debt. That sounds bad, but I'm going to assure you that they're an extremely sophisticated person, and they proposed the debt structure, and I actually talked us down from the debt structure. So, do you know the story?
No.
All right. I was hoping to feed me questions. But
now you're going to have to go like rogue, man.
Okay, so in real estate, you're taking calculated risks. Think back to the credit card example we just gave 3 or 4 minutes ago. The credit cards, I don't give a shit if the credit card debt was 50%, right?
That's a lot.
It's amortized over the year.
Okay.
So it's only 30%. Right? Most credit cards are 30%.
Yeah.
If I pull a credit card out and do renovations for 3 months on a credit card, and then I turn around and I pay the credit card off in full, I borrowed all of the bank's money and I only paid the interest. No big deal.
Right.
It probably was going to make me money. So if you use hard money lending, which is a term also known as private money lending, there's no real definition of it, at least right now. We're filming this. Then you can do that. So there's these guys in Tennessee, and they were buying a $14 million hotel.
It's a nice hotel.
Actually, it was a really shitty hotel, and that's why they were buying it for $7 million.
And that's how it's done.
They were buying a $14 million hotel for $7 million.
Right.
It's probably got problems.
I would imagine.
Probably got problems.
Yeah.
So it wasn't bankable. Why? It will be. Anyway, long story short, they raised the capital and they needed money right at the last minute because one of their investors backed out because whatever, personal reasons or 1031 exchange fell through, whatever it is. Don't worry about that. We'll get into all that shit later. And oh boy, basically ended up, so they're buying a $14 million hotel for $7 million. Oh, and by the way, they have $0 and they're raising the money for the down payment. And so they raise it from, I don't know, 10 people. I really don't know. Well, one guy backs out and they need $500,000 and they need it tomorrow. Like, I guess a Thursday, they call me. They're like, we need it by end of day Friday.
That's fast.
And they're like, listen, man, we need this money for 2 weeks. We need $500,000 for 2 weeks. We'll give you 2% per week. All right. So that's $10,000 per week. That's insane. Amortized, I don't even know. They're 120,000, 120%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
That's huge.
It's considered predatory lending. But they don't give a shit because they're buying a $14 million hotel for they think it's $14 million for $7 million. They think they're getting a deal and they need the money. And they propose to coax me into giving them the money. They need it for that. So I was like, whoa. I don't think you're going to need it for 2 weeks. I think you're going to need it for a lot longer than that. Let's just write it for a year and I'll go to 1% per week.
Which was nice.
And then after 2 months, we'll go to 0.5% per week. And they're like, no possible way is going to go over that. We're going to need the money for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. So 1% per week means they're giving you 1% of the loan per week for $500,000. It's $5,000 per week they're paying.
That's wild.
And so it was like December we lended to them and they just paid us off last week. And it is June 7th.
That's like 6 months later.
Yeah. So they were laughing when I proposed to drop their rate to 0.5% per week because I just know shit goes wrong. Yeah, I follow the fundamentals. I don't want them to go bankrupt, then I get nothing back.
Yeah, right.
We're like, we're gonna taper this and we're gonna go down because if things go wrong, you guys are gonna probably want the cushion.
Oh yeah.
So I am a hard money lender. That could have been considered a predatory loan, but we were okay and they were okay.
Yeah.
And they ended up buying it. They got USDA debt backed, and they're doing really, really good now.
But that's a good example of some FU money.
That's FU money.
Yeah.
Was that? I think it was like 6 month long. Got $68,000.
Oh my god.
Where did I get $500,000? The short answer is I didn't get $500,000. I pulled a line of credit and paid 9% on that money. So I arbitraged the difference between $500,000 and 12%, or sorry, whatever, the 1%.
Yeah.
And so I paid 9% on the money the entire time. Right. And they paid me and I paid the bank.
Yeah.
And I now don't do that. But this is good, the bad, the ugly, and the sexy.
Yeah. And the sex. That was sexy.
So we got some sexy.
Bringing sexy back.
Niblets in there for you.
Cheers to that.
All right. So we'll close this out. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. I certainly have. Any closing thoughts here?
Just again, always dig back into past episodes as we're gearing up now to more advanced types of stories, advanced types of techniques. You'll want to really know the fundamentals and the basics as we really get into things past this episode. And then at the end of the day, we have tips and additional resources at HughCarnahan.com.
HughCarnahan.com. Top left, there's going to be free resources. Dane, bottom line, what is good debt versus bad?
Good debt is debt that you can use strategically to make more money.
You'll make more money than the debt will cost.
Absolutely.
And bad debt is
it's everything else.
Everything
Don't
else.
touch it.
Don't touch it. All
I've
right.
been bad.
That's pretty good. So I mean, we'll just leave it at that. That's my opinion. Could be wrong. Probably is. So
well, thanks guys for tuning in. Again, this is all about teaching you how to think like an investor. F you, Hugh.
F you, Dan.
All right. Hey everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, Hugh and I really, really try to deliver value in these episodes. So if you learned something, you thought something was funny, you enjoyed a guest, please hop on to wherever it's being hosted, whether that's Spotify or Apple, and drop us a 5-star review. If it's anything lower than that, email us separately. We may or may not respond, but at least all of the things that we did right, let us know. And truly, if we did anything wrong, or if there's guests that you want to see, we aim to please, and you just want to be a guest on the podcast, how can they get a hold of us?
If you want to be a guest or ask us any questions, you can email fumoney@hughcarnahan.com and let us know. Again, we read every comment that comes our way. We actually have 2 or 3 super exciting ideas for shows that have already come our way. Again, we appreciate everything, guys. Remember, real quick, we are not experts at anything. This is not financial advice. Make sure you do your own due diligence. We are for entertainment and educational purposes. Don't listen to random strangers on the internet. We hope to share our message to get it as far as we can to normal, everyday folks, blue-collar folks, military folks. This is information that all of us should have. And so if you liked it, please share it. Guys, we will see you in the next episode. Woo!
Woo!